Hi everybody, welcome back to Teentsy Vintage. This is Teresa. Got another art process video for you today. Today we're going to be doing a lot of collage. And I am adding gesso to this piece of cardboard. This used to be the cover for a sketchbook. And I saved it because it was very sturdy and it had a crisp white side. The other side has got the name of the company that made the sketchbook. But we're adding gesso to make sure we have a good surface to glue and paint and add ink and all that good stuff. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting off the hard bits from my little makeup sponges so that I can use them again. Also getting out my matte gel medium. And I have this piece of tissue paper. It came in a box that I ordered from joggles.com. I get a lot of my art supplies there, and they are just lovely. They always wrap everything in a fun piece of tissue paper. So I'm going to use this tissue paper in my project today. And I'm just cutting out some of the flowers. They really caught my eye. They're big and bold. And I really like the colors. Nice reds and greens. Very eye-catching. And got a few of the big red flowers here, and I'm going to go cut out one more, I think. So now I have 3 flowers. And here's our focal point for today. It is a vintage photo of 3 girls. I have no idea who they are or if they're sisters or friends or what. I really loved the way they just all looked right into the camera, had very serious looks on their face, and one of them is holding a book. I'm going to fussy cut the girls out of this portrait. Get rid of all my scraps. They go into the recycling bag. And now I'm just going to play around with the pieces that I have. Just trying to get a feel for where I would want things to go. And I'm just cutting some of the edges off, trimming them a little bit, making them a little more round, less pointy. And this kind of works for me. It's going to end up being different, but you know, I play around with the different pieces for a while here to see what works and what doesn't. So I've decided, you know what, it really needs some stuff in the background. So I got out my vintage dictionary, pulled out a couple pages, and I'm just going to start tearing those up. Oh, and I'm also going to go get a few pieces of scrap paper. These are pages that I pulled off my gel press. That's one of those gel plates that you put paint on, and then you can pull up a unique print. And it had a lot of yellows and greens, kind of an olive color that went with some of the green on the tissue paper. So now I'm just going to lay down an entire layer of the dictionary pages and the scraps. Not only will this give the page some texture, but it will also give it some visual interest. And the background won't be this stark white or boring background. And I'm just laying these down. Little piece here, big piece there. And I am using a piece of Junkmail. It's one of those cable company cards. They're kind of plastic, kind of paper. I don't really know what they are. I don't think you can recycle them, but I like to use them to apply the matte gel in a very thin layer. This little card has some flexibility to it, so it's a really nice tool to use, and it's absolutely free. cover up some of those spots. Yeah. I'm not worried about getting the edges in this case because I am going to paint those later. I basically just want to get a nice layer down. Drying the back, I don't think that did anything, but just trying to help this drying process go a little faster. You want to be sure that everything is dry so that you don't get torn paper. Okay, so now I'm back with the young ladies and the flowers, and I've decided that 3 big flowers is not really working, but 2 big flowers and 1 smaller flower is. So now that I know where I'm going to go in terms of the focal, now I can go in and add all of my color. So here I'm auditioning a few different greens, a purple even, but none of those really are working. This kind of crazy green is the right green, but I don't end up using it. I do end up using this navy blue folk art paint. It's easy to find. I go in here with a dry brush first, which doesn't really give me the look. I add a little water, and that helps. I don't want it to be so thick. So now I'm just going to use the Cosmetic sponge to kind of take up some of the blue and add blue back in. You know, in this instance, water is your friend. It helps the paint spread a lot faster, and it gives a lot of texture. Some of it's transparent, some of it's a little bit thicker. It just adds a lot of visual interest. And I'm just going to go all the way around the borders. I want it to be darkest near the edges and get kind of lighter as it comes in. So I'm just going back, adding a little more blue, a little more water, just to give it some streakiness, some drippiness, and drying that really well. All right, so now the next thing I want to do is add a very bright green. And I thought about that paint, but then I realized, you know what? I'm going to use a Distress Oxide ink instead. Not only will it give me the really intense color that I'm looking for, but it will also go on in a transparent method, so I'll be able to see all of that little tiny dictionary print that I spent all that time gluing down. So I've got a wet brush, I've added some water to make it spread really well, and I'm just going in and covering everything that's left that's white or untouched with this ink. And I believe it is Twisted Citron. I've listed all the supplies in the description below. But this worked out great. It even sits on top of the acrylic, which is really nice. Once the acrylic is dry, it's dry. It's not going to go anywhere. This Distress Oxide paint, though, it does change if you put more water on it. So I tend to add it after I've added other things, just so it doesn't get runny and weird. Now I'm going to go around with what's left of my navy blue paint, and I'm going to darken the edges of the cardboard. And I'm also going to go and get any little bits of white that are left and make sure that I have good coverage on the whole piece. So now we're going to check one more time to make sure that the flowers and the girls are still the way I want to go, and they are. And I'm going to use that little piece of junk mail again. You want to be very gentle here. Don't want to tear your tissue paper. And you want to go from the middle to the outer sides because you want to make sure you don't get any air bubbles trapped and you get a nice smooth application. Same thing with the paper. You also want to make sure that you wipe off your little card because it's going to pick up some of that green ink because remember it is water soluble and the gel medium is picking up the color. So if you don't want that color in other places, wipe off the piece of junk mail. There was a little tiny corner that was sticking up, so I just added a little more gel, and it is good to go. Okay, so now we're going to go in with a Stabilo Woody and add some beautiful marks. I'm also going to outline the right side of this trio here and activate it with some water. Add an outline to something, you really make it pop, and sometimes it just helps give the eye a place to go. It's like this is the edge. Gonna add a few more marks over here. And at first I don't use any water to activate them, but I do end up doing that in a little bit. Now I'm going in with a Stabilo Marksol in black just to do some very light scribbles, totally random. And I'm going to activate those with water, and it's just to add something to those kind of blank spaces. And now I'm going back over the woody marks and I'm putting water on those just to activate those. It's just setting them basically. Once they dry, they're going to be on there. And we're going to use our heat tool again to make sure everything is nice and dry. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, y'all. You can buy prints of this on my website.